Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chit Chat Live for the week of April 18th. I hope everyone is ready for a wonderful show about Who Do You Think You Are, starring Katey Sagal. My name is Shannon Combs Bennett. I'm the creative director for the In-Depth Genealogist. Joining me this evening are Terry O'Connell, executive director, Sherry Hudson Passy, sorry, I keep messing you up. Of Carolina Girl, genealogy blog, and owner of Genealogy One-on-One. Also joining us is Mary Roddy of MKR Genealogy and Melissa Barker from A Genealogist in the Archives. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
I don't know about you, but I thought the show was absolutely fantastic. Yes?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Great stories. Great stories.
A lot of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I think if the listeners out there have not seen the show yet, pause. You shouldn't be listening to this. You need to go watch the show, and then you need to come back and listen to our thoughts and have your hankies ready, because I thought it was a bit of a tearjerker at times. Yeah?
Definitely a tearjerker.
Yes.
Definitely. But, I always like to say genealogy TV is the perfect evening activity. So who wants to start the discussion tonight? Should we start with her amazing mother and what she did? That was interesting to learn.
Place.
Yep. So Katey's mother was a USO star. That's pretty fantastic.
I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought it was interesting that the New York Public Library has a section for the performing arts, which kind of makes sense, seeing, that the Juilliard and all the other things there. But I didn't realize that the USO was housed out of New York City.
Yeah.
I didn't either. I didn't know that.
So that they could.
And I thought it was. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just love the fact that they had the little pamphlet.
Yeah.
The protocols as they would go and visit the soldiers of what they could say, what they shouldn't say, what the soldiers would want.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really an interesting insight about exactly what it was, besides just, singing, which was something that this needed, but to actually see what her role was when she went into the hospitals.
Yes.
Well, and yes, she was only 17 years old, it sounds like, when she was doing that. And so, so that was, probably for a 17 or 18-year-old, definitely they would kind of need to be reminded of some of those things.
Right.
Right. Could you imagine a 17-year-old today?
No.
Hey, we all agree.
Yeah, not many, but you just had to grow up so much faster. It was wartime, and they had to grow up faster.
I like the fact that they pulled out newspapers or a newspaper article. What made me think, though, is I wondered if maybe there would have been something in like Stars and Stripes if they reported on the USO and the Stars and Stripes as well.
I think they do. I know Stars and Stripes is still around today, but I think it's housed in a different place. And I remember reading some of, a couple decades ago now. Oh my God, I'm old. It was that long ago I read that. Oh, geez. That they still had announcements and such from USO and what was upcoming and all those types of things.
It looks like the Stars and Stripes archives is on newspaper archive.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Oh.
That is awesome. So this is when I get to say that nowadays USO tours are very interesting because the USO, they don't only bring people to you, but you can take tours with them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, my mom and dad were in Germany. We did a U.S. tour. I was the youngest person on the tour bus. It was a bunch of old retirees and my parents and me. In Germany, and we took an all-day winery tour through the Mosel Valley. I was 18. It was fantastic, drinking laws and everything,
Right.
But yes, but USO is cool. So what was very interesting is Katey, lost her parents very, very young, didn't know, doesn't have many or any living family, any living family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She knew of no one who had ever met her parents, and here they bring out, I just love her name, Tinker.
Before we get into Tinker, I think it's quite, being that her dad was a director,
Mhm.
you would have thought there would, I mean, unless she's really looking at that mother connection, which, because
She
she lost
might.
the mother first, is very possible. There's got to be people out there that,
Well, she did say, I never knew anyone who knew my mother then.
Well,
okay.
Right.
that part was interesting to me because when they showed her father's, well, Katey's grandfather's obituary on the Find a Grave website, it listed 4 children, including her mom. And I lost my mom when I was 17. And, you know, my aunts, I have one particular aunt that knew my mom, and I really went to her. So I was kind of surprised that Katey, I mean, she's in her 60s now, but even in her 20s or 30s, that she hadn't really reached out to her mother's siblings.
But you know what? I think that, you know, back in the day when, you know, this was all going on and her mom was raising these kids, mom's in California
Mhm.
and the rest are in the Midwest. I mean,
And they
it's
were
very
in
possible.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that she probably just didn't
She's
even
lost
know.
ties. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think they also said, and Tinker, who we should tell for the audience, was another performer for the USO tour and remembered her mother. So they had some wonderful photographs to share and some memories to share. She did say, Katey said also that her mother was from a very conservative background and they didn't necessarily approve of what
Yeah.
she was doing. So if there was some sort of friction or, you know, family disapproval there, I could entirely see how there might be some ostracation or
Yeah.
of the older generations. But it happens, you know, happens more often than not.
In that obituary, which means there was some connection, because they
Yeah.
could have just taken her right out of it.
They could have, yep.
But notice they didn't list her husband.
Yeah. Well, they didn't list any of the people's husbands, but Katey did recognize that's the right one because that's my aunt.
Right.
So at least she knew her aunt's married name.
Yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remembered in the show that she talked about having deep Southern roots, and then we ended up in Iowa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, where was the
I
Southern
was confused
roots?
about that.
I was confused
We
with
only
it
looked
too.
at Dad's line. We didn't look at the grandma's line.
That's true because the Hostetlers and all those were from her father's line. And she said, I already know, remember the beginning, they said, the narrator said that she already knew a lot about her mother's side of the family.
It was
Okay.
So they were going to follow her father's side of the family. So it sounds like her mother's deep Southern roots weren't covered at all.
Right.
Okay.
Which, you know, made me giggle when Tinker said, oh, bless her heart.
She was cute. Oh my
It was
God.
so Tinker sang the song. Yeah, when she sang the song to her, and then Katey was like, "Mommy, just sing that song." It just, you know,
Yeah.
that was a very touching moment.
Oh, just, I can't imagine. But it was, yeah, you could tell that they were totally moved by that. So the first genealogist on the show was next, and that was pretty exciting, especially since we talked about either last week or the week before how people have been talking about not having a lot of genealogists on the show. Ta-da!
Yes.
2 in a row.
Yay!
So Vonnie Zulo, and she met Katey Sagal at the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society. So who wants to tackle the dangers of find-a-grave, since we've already sort of alluded to the fact that there was a find-a-grave entry pulled up for her grandfather.
Well, before we talk about that, if you'll
Sure.
recall, the comment that the genealogist made that made me shudder a little bit was, Ancestry has made it really easy.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They're paid to say that. Let's
I
face it.
know. But there needs to be some truth.
That's the wrong picture. They say what, 10%? 10% is on the internet.
Right.
Yeah, at most.
Yes.
I think it's about 5 or 7%.
Right.
Okay. So less than 10% is on the internet. Get into the archives.
Right.
Yes.
So
Visit Melissa.
Yes.
so this is going to be my observational complaint for the episode is that thankfully that they've had 2 professional genealogists now on the show, but each of them have shown how to do research on the internet and not how to do research
At the
manually.
Yes, that's
For
right.
that, they're still bringing out professors or people, and we all know that they are genealogists and researchers behind the scenes doing the research, but they're still not the ones being presented as, we're the people who know how to work the computer is what I'm gathering from this.
Right. Right. And it seems like, they'll type in the names, the hint of of this name, and they'll go, oh, that's them. Well, maybe it is and maybe it's not, but they don't explain that you can get somebody that looks like your person, but maybe your person. So, and I know there's time restraints and things like that, but
Right.
you still have to check into those things. You can't just say, oh, that's my person.
But who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Is Ancestry doing follow-up blog posts this time around? They usually follow up the episode with a more in-depth look at what's going on in the episode.
I haven't seen.
I haven't noticed.
I haven't seen one.
Mm-mm.
Who wants to go out and Google?
I will.
I thought so. Terry's going to come back in just a minute with the answer because that's what she does.
I want people to become genealogists as much as the next person, but I also want them to know the truth and the reality that, if you go do an ancestry search, you're not going to get it on the first hit or the first try, maybe.
Yes.
Right.
It's going to
That's
take
what they make it look like.
time.
Well,
Yeah.
and what they do with names is the Ancestry has come in and cleaned up the names. I mean, that name's Willing. I bet that when that was originally, that record maybe was entered, it would have been something entirely different on the
Right.
Ancestry database.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so going back to Ancestry, they are doing recaps on the blog afterwards. So
Awesome. Well, that's great. We will definitely have to go out there and read that, huh? Gosh. So what else did so back to Find a Grave. Because I'm not going to let that one go. Because if, hopefully people out there who are listening realize that you still have to, I guess, do your homework to make sure that everything that is listed there is correct. Because there have been more than one instance where information was not correct, copy and pasted wrong, relationships misconnected. People are what, Terry?
Assuming because they found the rest of the family at one cemetery that
Right.
the last person's there too.
Right. Yeah.
I've dealt with that.
Yes, I've dealt with that. But yeah, I just really crazy. When they went out to find a grave, I know it can be a wonderful. I found a lot of clues there, and I have found a lot of clues being the operative word, right?
Yeah.
But I was, I guess the thing is, I was just really disappointed that it wasn't put out there. It was more put out there as a, look how easy it is, oh my God, boom, 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 here's the information.
Yes.
And not the, all right, let's take this information, now we're going to prove it with the census record, which is essentially what she did, right? They just didn't walk the audience through that step.
Through it.
Maybe it didn't make good TV.
Maybe.
I think it's the most important thing we need to say is, like you said, it's a clue and you need to follow it up. That it's not a record.
Right.
There's no record to it. It's supposed to be a picture of a headstone, and people are putting stuff in, whether it's by their own personal knowledge or what they're assuming, or maybe what they're taking out of obituaries. We still have to go back, do the legwork, call the cemetery, see if they're there, look for the obituary yourself. you know, look at the death certificate. Isn't lining up.
Right.
You know, do your homework like you would with any other record that
Right.
you're getting information off.
And on that particular Find a Grave, there's actually 2 different headstone pictures. They both have the same name and roughly the same. One of them just has years and the other one has dates, but there was no explanation at all of why there would be 2 different headstones either, which is kind of a weird thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other important thing is to remember it's all done by volunteers.
Yes.
Yes. Sure.
And number collectors.
Yes.
Oh dear. Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on. But I did like how she pointed out that you should look for people of military age.
Yes.
I don't think that was
Yes.
pointed out before. So, and
Yes.
we've all talked about it on the show, on these chit chats about how, you know, you should look for those military records. So it was nice to point that out. Now, have you all come across? I've seen it before, but have you ever seen that substitute thing before?
Yes, I have. I actually have an ancestor that is listed on a consolidated draft record from West Virginia. Well, actually, it was Virginia, then it became West Virginia.
Right.
And the problem I'm having with it actually is he's listed on there as being on the draft, but I cannot find any service records or any records at all that he served, and he lived till 1924.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
I'm just trying to figure out now, okay, did he serve, did he not serve, what happened? He's listed on this draft, but what happened?
Yes.
I might be mistaken, but I thought that was, at least what I've seen with my relatives, was it's a draft registration.
mhm.
So you weren't necessarily drafted if you had your name on that, but you kind of had to sign up
Right.
so you could potentially be drafted.
Right. And a lot of, okay, so for my ancestor, one of my father's families, there were 5 brothers, and I can find all 5 brothers listed on the draft registration. I know that 4 of them served because I've been able to find either service records or pension records for them. The oldest, which was my ancestor, I've been able to piece together through some family stories that even though he registered for the draft because it was required of him, he would have been like 48. He was in his late 40s when he registered. He actually didn't serve because all of his brothers left. And he was basically the only man with a father who was nearing 80 who stayed behind to basically care for all of the family farms, all the children, all his brothers' wives, and all of that. And supposedly, from what I've been able to piece together, he paid for the substitute. Like they took a pool, and he got to stay home, and all the other brothers went. But it's not written down anywhere. I mean, this is all, you know, family piecing together or finding a diary and a letter written here and, you know, family handed down stories. So it may be the same kind of situation for you, Melissa, where it was required to register for the draft, but he didn't actually go.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to come to that conclusion. Not yet, but almost. He was in his 20s. He wasn't old. He was in his 20s. And so, but yeah, I just keep looking, you know, I want to prove, you know, I want to prove the fact that he didn't serve.
Yeah, I understand that. But I was happy that they brought that up because it's one of those things I don't think a lot of people realized, that back then you could actually pay for somebody else to serve in your place.
Yes.
It was a tidy sum, but
I think any of my ancestors did because they were too dirt poor. They don't need money to pay anybody to serve for them. So they all served, I'm sure.
That kind of brings up a little bit of a point that I really liked about this episode is on some of the other episodes, the celebrities, I don't know, don't want to appear ignorant or whatever, and so they kind of say what they think happened. And she was just really upfront of, well, what does that mean? I've never heard that before. I don't know. And so she was able to, you know, shut up and listen to what they said.
that's funny. But yeah, it was kind of refreshing to hear her say that and ask those questions, because it's nice to see the celebrity engaged and involved with the conversation, wanting to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right.
So her next big discovery was being Amish.
Oh, she said that. Oh, I'm Amish.
Yes, right.
Yes.
She needs a
She's
buggy.
gonna get a buggy and a bonnet.
I need to
I would have liked to have seen who it was that left.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Mhm.
it had to have been Abraham, the one who had signed, who was on the Civil War draft, because he died in Iowa. Remember? They found his obituary, and he was buried at the Dunkard Cemetery, which is the German Baptist Brethren, in Iowa. So it,
But I took it as that he would not serve. He was the one who wouldn't serve or had
yeah.
the fade. Yeah, but that he died. I don't know that he left his
No,
Amish.
I doubt they left, but a lot of them became Mennonite. The Dunkards aren't necessarily as strict as the Amish. And so if you're talking about turn of the century, now we're nearly 100 years later, or even, even after 20 or 30 years, if they did not stay within the sect, if they became a different, uh, they went to a different, oh, what are they called? I grew up in the Amish Mennonite areas, and now I'm blanking on the names. But the different orders,
Congregation?
well, kind of, but it's more than that, because like you'll have groups of congregations, and they follow. Even in Indiana, where I'm from, there were even 2 counties away, and there'd be a variation on the religion and what was allowed and what wasn't allowed. And those in Indiana northern Indiana are very different than southern Indiana, and those in Indiana are different from Ohio and are different from Pennsylvania. And, and it's kind of, the each little, I guess, group or congregation sometimes changes the rules on what is and is not allowed. And a lot of Amish became Mennonite, which are even less strict. And a lot of the Mennonites have extremely liberal groups for what people would consider when you think about those types of faiths. And what they were 100 years ago are completely different than what they are today.
Well, my thought was is that could you have looked at the World War I era
Mm-hmm.
to see if the Amish or Mennonite beliefs were carried forward?
That's
Because
true.
I'm thinking that's the next war, and so I'm thinking if you could
Yes.
do that or not.
Yes, Terry.
sent you a link.
Oh, Terry sent me a link. Uh-oh. I have to find it.
There's a link with information on the Dunkers, because some people are going to want to know.
Right. So let me find this for you, for everybody. I have to scroll through. So there's a link. It's white.illinoisgenweb.org/WCHS .04.20.02.html. Wow. We'll have
Maybe put that on a blank screen.
Yeah, let me see if I can get it on the screen. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that, but I will figure it out. If not, we will try to put it in the chat notes or on the website, so everyone can have that. But yeah, I want to say, if I had to speculate, not having done any type of research, the fact that Abraham left Pennsylvania, I would assume that it was one of his descendants that eventually left the church. I mean, that would make the most sense to me.
Don't you just find it amazing that through all these generations, the family stood for one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that she was
all the way down
very
to Katey.
tied to that still.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So what did you all think about her fifth great-grandfather, Jacob Hochstetler?
That was an amazing story.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But they had first-hand accounts in the books of the archives.
Yes.
Yes.
That's almost like going to VHS and getting your scroll.
There you go, yes.
He did get a family tree in Pennsylvania. I was pretty impressed.
That's true.
It wasn't with a ribbon on it, but it was close enough, darn it.
Right?
Um,
Yeah.
I was happy to see that they brought out oral accounts because we talked about this a little bit last time too, about how firsthand accounts can lead to so many discoveries and so much color and wonderfulness. Clues into
And with
family.
we got the siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what happened to them?
Yes.
Yeah. I was happy that they, many of you know, if you've been listening to the show for a while, that my father is a historian, and I grew up with all sorts of odd stories. So I was actually really happy that they touched on the white captives, because that's something that my father, for the last, 40 years, has been complaining about sometimes in modern renditions of historical accounts, because he would always point out to me in history about, how they would take captives and assimilate them basically, and how, it was their common culture, not just, white people, but other Indian tribes would be completely assimilated in, as needed or as, taken over. So to touch a little bit on the traditions of the Native Americans, I thought was really good to explain to people who may not have known that aspect of history.
I have a family, my direct line, part of my direct line on my grandmother's side, the Coonrod family from Ohio, and there is an Indian story in our family, and an abduction, I guess, from the Indians, and the child, it was a child, went to live with them. They took him, and they lived with him for years, and then they brought him back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a story.
How did that work out? How did that work out? Did he have
It's a story. It's one of those stories that you see in every book about a family, and it's difficult to prove as a genealogist, but it's just that story that every descendant knows about. And he came back, and he had a family, and, it's like, everything was well.
I have a similar thing in my Rue line in Pennsylvania, and seeing this episode makes me want to go back and revisit my research on that and see what more I can figure out about it.
Mm-hmm.
It totally makes me want to go to Pennsylvania, because I definitely have some deep Pennsylvania lines, and I've been wanting to go. Now I think I need to go.
I think you need to go. I think you need to take a road trip to Philadelphia. It's not very far from me. I could meet you there.
I was just going to say, are you up for it?
You could take the train if you wanted to. They have one straight from Chicago to Philadelphia. I'm not helping, am I?
No, not really.
Well, I can take the train from here. It's only a 2-hour train ride, see?
That's
I
cool.
can meet you there.
Yeah, do they have a direct train from Tennessee to Philadelphia? Because I have ancestors that
I bet you they do. Okay, so this is going to be the side. Everyone should go check out Amtrak, because Amtrak is awesome, and they have some amazing deals. Boom, sorry.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
It may just
little
be
commercial break there?
Yeah, it may just
for Amtrak.
Oh my
we
God.
better get sponsorship.
It's a 23-hour ride from Chicago to Philly. I can drive it in less.
But just think, on the train you can eat and sleep and not have to drive.
Sure.
For 23 hours.
I didn't say
you
it
get
was
up, walk
fast.
around, and
Yeah, I didn't say it was fast. I just said you
Oh
could
my
do
God.
it.
It's so crazy, because it goes up and through New York and then down.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Oh.
But it's interesting.
It's interesting. That's Terry language for not doing it.
That's what it costs.
I have a question for you. Did anyone else, I mean, I'm a peace person too, but did anyone else wish that he would have used his gun
To save
I
his children?
to save his
Yeah.
children and his wife?
I know. I want to know why why it just said that they had what avenge something something against his wife, and I kind of want to know what it was.
Yeah, they
Right,
particularly
yes.
picked her. Yeah, they particularly did not like
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, I just wondered why.
The story said he had a gun, and I thought, you should have used that gun this one time.
Yeah, but it's back to that faith,
Or
right?
at least fired
Yes,
it to
I
scare
know.
them. Yeah.
I
Well,
know.
yeah. Part of me wonders if they went ahead and divided up the members of the family right then and there, and the three people who were killed were the ones where they were killed because the families that they were given to killed them in retribution. Remember, they said that it was common to either, if they would be, the captives would be given to typically to a family who had lost, and they would either be killed in retribution or adopted into the family. Because it sounds like Jacob was held
Right.
captive,
Adopted. Mm-hmm.
and the two younger children were
Yeah,
adopted,
Christian and,
Christian and Joseph, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and maybe they decided, Jacob, the son, had been shot in the leg. Maybe they didn't want to transport him, so,
Yeah.
and then maybe the other two, older. I don't know. This is all purely speculation, obviously.
But it does make you wonder, what did the wife
Do?
say? I mean,
Yeah,
what?
she may have been hysterical.
I would have been.
Yeah, I definitely would have been too.
Or maybe they had run-ins with her before over
That could
something. I
be.
mean,
Right.
I don't know.
And
Yeah.
they didn't.
I like the fact that they brought up a map to show
Yes.
her how far and where they lived and then how far they were taken. I like
Yeah.
the use of the map.
They marched Jacob for 17 days, 300 miles.
Miles. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I would be interested in knowing, because did they say if they were the only household attacked, or was there a massacre, several families? I'm thinking they only mentioned his.
I think they in the story,
yeah.
in the newspaper
That's all they
article, it
mentioned
only
in
mentioned
this-
his.
yeah.
It mentioned that his wife and a young man were killed. It didn't even say it was his son in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And they
I
didn't
would be
mention the
interested
daughter
to
at all.
Yeah, I would be interested to see the history of that, to see if there was other families,
Right.
or if they were chosen because of maybe something the wife said or did.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that they didn't explain the scalping. Do you all know why they did that? My father told me.
Oh,
Please tell.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you guys had known, but during the French and Indian War, when the Indians sided with the French, that was how that they would prove that they had killed people to the French.
Get their payment or whatever.
Well, yeah, not necessarily. I don't think it was necessarily payment, but it was you went out and you did this, and we brought back and it wasn't like the whole head. It was just like a little bit.
Yeah, it was
You would
just
take it back.
yeah.
Terry, please don't throw up on camera.
so Shannon, are you saying then that is how scalping started, or that's okay? You're saying that's
Yes.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was the proof that you had done this deed.
Maybe when Dad moves in, he needs to be on the show.
Oh, don't do that to me.
Absolutely, yes, invite him.
Because
Yes.
you think I'm a bad know-it-all. I'm just going to put that right out there. If you think
I would love to see him watch one of these shows and then get his perspective, his historical perspective.
It would be
Yes.
interesting.
it would be fun, and technology would confuse him, but we could try it. He will be
You know
here.
what would be cool is not even like having him on one show about the show, like have him watch a season, and at the end of the season, after we've done all the recaps, just have one where we could talk about all of it.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Oh,
great.
something to
That'd
fill
be
those
great.
columns.
Yeah.
Well, he will be here sometime before July, so we can totally figure out a monopolize Shannon's father episode. And my dad, being a not only having a master's degree in history, but being a history teacher, he would totally. Yeah. My dad, he has both of my parents actually. I don't know how I didn't get this trait. They have photographic type memories. So that's why he can just off the top of his head recite something because he literally, if he reads something, he has the image of the page in his head.
Wow.
It's kind of
Wow.
disgusting.
That's funny.
But once again, it makes for interesting road trips when you're a child and bored. So, okay, so what we haven't, well, yeah. So we haven't touched on that there was a sort of happy ending. The two boys did get to reunite with their father at the end and come back home. And Katey got to meet her seventh cousin.
And I just walked in and said, we're related.
Yep. I was
Like, didn't even give him a minute to say hello, how are you?
Yeah, it's like I hear the last name. It's like, oh, hey, are we cousins? We're actually seventh cousins. Woohoo!
That was cool.
But
Yeah.
She started saying, I have no living family.
and I think she's realizing that the living family thing is not necessarily as small of a population as she thinks it is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That we all have thousands of cousins out there. Just depends on how you want to look at it, right?
Yeah. What did he say? There are hundreds of thousands of descendants of this family.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
a family.
This is
They're
when
not looking at any
I had
other
a hard time believing that one.
there's Hochstetlers everywhere, I swear to God. There's several large families where I'm from in Indiana. I saw that name. I was like, oh, they're German. Huh, look at that.
So it's cool that she now knows that she's not alone.
That's
she
right.
might not have that,
Right.
that
That's
sibling
right.
connection or that first cousin connection, but she has family.
That's right.
Mhm.
So does anybody have any last comments before we close this evening?
It was a great episode.
It was a really good episode.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely a tearjerker. Very a lot of raw emotion.
Yeah.
She held it together very well, but there was a lot of raw emotion there.
Yeah. That is very, very true.
Well, so far in this season, I think that the celebrities have truly embraced the concept and the process, and I think they act like they really enjoy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as we get further and further each season that comes, after you sit back and you can watch a few of them and you know what's going to happen, that it's just easier for them to, like, oh, okay, I know what I'm
supposed to do.
right. I'm just supposed to sit here and listen and learn about my family, learn about these people I call ancestors.
That's right.
So it is cool. I definitely agree with that. They've all been very touching episodes.
Yeah. Well, ladies, on that note then, we've been on the air now for almost 45 minutes. So I'm going to say that we've had an excellent discussion and looking forward to chatting with you all next week.
Definitely. Do we know who it is?
No. And I made the mistake of guessing who it would be based on the teaser that we were sent by Who Do You Think You Are, and I was wrong. So I'm not making that mistake again. Because obviously this was not Leah Michelle.
That's right. Yes.
So yeah, so I'm not going to guess who it's going to be this time.
I wonder if it's in the listing. Hold on. You talk. I'll look.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it is. And I don't at this time have any behind-the-scenes cut stuff for you either. Yeah, I didn't get that this time.
It's Molly.
Molly!
Ooh.
Oh, as we all go absolutely gaga, and it shows our age. I will have to have a Molly Ringwald viewing show this week preparing for it. I'm so
I know.
excited.
Can we find out John Hughes goes?
That'd be cool. Okay, now I'm all excited. Okay.
We could breakfast club it, you know?
Yes.
Yay.
That'll totally be the theme for the slideshow next week, all breakfast foods.
Breakfast Club.
Oh my God, that'll be great. All the different clips. There's so many clips out there.
There are so many clips.
Pretty in pink.
I was going to say we could all wear pink next week.
Can I wear pink?
You guys are a riot. All right,
But nobody else
everybody.
will see that.
Yeah, I know. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us again tonight, ladies. It's very nice having you on the panel and hearing your thoughts and impressions of the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome.
Thanks,
And
ladies.
for all of you out there listening to us now, please, please, please let us know what you think. Send us an email. Go out to our social media. Anyone you like, shoot us a line. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for future topics, please let us know at editor@indepthgenealogist.com. And on that note, we look forward to talking with you again next week. And don't forget to go in depth with all of your ancestors. Bye.